Josh Duggar sentenced to 12 years in prison. You guys will never believe what happened at Josh Duggar's prison sentencing. Yes, after over a year since he first got arrested, and then almost 6 months after he was found guilty, he finally got his prison sentence, and he's going to prison for 12 and a half years. And I'm honestly kind of shocked by the entire thing. So if you don't remember from way back in December when he was found guilty, he could get a minimum of 5 years and a maximum of 20 years. So he got somewhere in the middle of that with 12 and a half years. But there's actually way more to his sentencing than just the 12 and a half years. It was a fully crazy day in court, and I honestly can't believe all of the drama that went down. So first of all, when the sentencing was read, Anna, Josh, and Jim Bob had no reaction. Maybe it's because they truly think that he's innocent and he'll be free after the appeal, but don't you think you'd have some reaction after finding out, your husband is going to prison for a decade? And as for the other Duggars, Joy, Jason, and James were also there, and they all supposedly looked upset when the sentencing was read, but it doesn't look like it was because they support Josh. We all know that Joy is not on her brother's side. Her husband Austin went to almost every single day of the trial and did not look happy, and she was Josh's youngest victim during his 2015 scandal, and it sounds like she had no idea what happened to her until the trial last December, and yes, her parents have been lying to her this entire time. So after his trial, she and Austin put out a pretty obvious statement that they did not support her brother, and at the sentencing, many people reported that Joy had to leave the courtroom when the judge discussed Josh's previous actions towards her as a child. And even though the boys seem like they'd be more on Jim Bob and Josh's side, considering that they technically live under Jim Bob's roof, that is not the case. Both of the boys shared Ginger and Jeremy's statement after Josh was found guilty, which was definitely one of the more obvious statements against Josh in the entire family. Plus, none of the three kids sat with Jim Bob and Anna in the courtroom, so if anything is obvious at this point, it's that the family is very divided. And I've got to say, I am so glad that all of the kids, including the boys, are finally getting their eyes open to everything that their parents put them through. It's probably so hard for them all, but it's so important. But back to Josh, his sentencing was honestly one of the weirdest sentences that I've ever seen. His legal team was just so weird. The judge sentenced Josh to 20 years of probation after he gets out of prison, and during those 20 years, he's not allowed to have a computer or internet access, and that included access to adult materials, if you know what I mean, and his legal team actually objected to that, and I can't think of one time where I've ever heard of a legal team objecting so that their client can still watch, adult material, if you know what I'm saying. So their argument was that had, nothing to do with the CSAM that he had been found guilty for, and the judge's argument was that it could be a gateway to reoffend, which is honestly just so disgusting, and I can't even deal with it. So they spent literally almost the entire day going back and forth about all of the different things that they should go into his sentencing, like his actions toward his sisters, his affairs, his adult, material and addiction and whatnot. But then also all the people who wrote letters talking about how amazing his character is and how he deserves, less of a sentence because of that. But you know who didn't write one of those letters? His cousin, Amy Duggar. She wrote a letter to the judge where she called Anna and Michelle's letters fake, and she even read it in an interview with The Sun.
Everyone's lives have been altered because of what my cousin has done. As for Josh's character, I am just so grateful that I was protected from my cousin as a child. 20 years isn't enough. I truly believe that he will offend again, and my heart is with the victims and with you, Judge Brooks.
One of the parents of one of the victims of the CSAM that Josh watched and downloaded also wrote a letter to the judge saying that he was evil and that their child had changed forever after the crimes that were committed against her. And it's honestly just so unbelievably horrible to think about what all of those kids went through. I mean, the judge agreed that he hadn't been able to get the videos and images out of his brain after they had viewed them during the trial. It is just really, truly devastating when you consider how many victims Josh has hurt, both in person to his sisters and also over the internet when he accessed those videos and images. So obviously, all of his previous crimes were taken into account, and I honestly think that that's a big reason why he got 12 and a half years instead of the lower end of the sentence like a lot of people thought he was going to get. And also, you have to take into account that, by that point, thankfully, almost all of his children will be grown up and out of the house and hopefully protected from their gross father. And Anna will be at an age where having any more kids will be a lot more difficult, if even possible at all. So even though it's not the full 20 years like we all wanted him to get, it sure is a lot better than the 5 that he could have easily gotten. But there was one part of the sentence that honestly just completely shocked me, and that's that the judge didn't require quote-unquote offender classes, if you know what I mean. I don't see why he wouldn't. He clearly has committed offender actions multiple times over the last 20 years, many times over, and the judge said that he recommended them, but that it wasn't a required part of his sentence, and I would honestly bet real money that Josh will never go to one of those classes. And I mean, this is a guy who is still trying to convince his wife and parents that he is not an offender and that he's really just been framed for the entire thing. If he chose to go through one of those programs, it would be like admitting guilt. And let's be honest here, you guys, he needs one of those programs. So I really don't doubt that he'll reoffend without proper therapy classes and whatever else he needs to actually fix this about himself. And he can't just keep pretending like he's innocent and he's been framed forever. I mean, he really thinks that he's untouchable and that he can just get away with whatever. So what's stopping him from reoffending once he's out? I mean, we know that his parents aren't going to get him the help that he needs. We know that Anna won't either. And we also know that Anna will forgive whatever he does. So all in all, he's not in a good place to be, rehabbed. And he's in a really good place to reoffend. And as, for where he's going to prison, he has 2 options. One in Seagoville, Texas, and another in Texarkana. Both are far from the Duggars' hometown in Arkansas. Both are around 5 hours, so it's definitely possible that Anna will pick up the kids and move them to wherever he's going, or maybe she'll just do what she's been doing since he got arrested, ditching them with literally any member of his family so that she can be with him by his side. But I mean, what do you guys think about all this? Do you think that 12 years wasn't enough? Are you as shocked as I am that he's not being forced to take any rehab classes? I mean, I'm honestly just really glad that he got something more than the minimum sentence, and that for once in his life, he's finally being held accountable for something. And I'm sure that Jim Bob and Josh's legal team are already planning to appeal it, but I hate to break it to all of them. No amount of money is going to buy him out of this one. But let me know what you guys think about all this stuff in the comments below. Could this possibly be the end of the Josh Duggar craziness we've been watching unfold for the last year? But really, I mean, it's been like for the past 7 years. So I'm sure this really isn't the end for all the Josh drama at all. But guys, put in the comments below what you guys think. Such a crazy, horrible, horrific story. It just breaks my heart. But guys, put in the comments below what you guys think. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Please do me a favor, hit that like, follow, share, subscribe button. And y'all better stay tuned for many more videos.